In today's wood story, we are building garden baskets, and I'm going to show you how you can build 2 different sizes. But the best part is that this is a very simple, beginner-friendly project that only requires simple tools. And most likely you already have the supplies in your shop. So go grab your tools and let's start this wood story. In order to make this garden basket, I've actually made a couple different sizes available to you. You can make a larger one, which will end up being 15 by 12, or you can make a smaller one, which will end up being approximately 12 by 9. And the benefit of each of these is, you might need a larger one for a ton of different vegetables, or maybe you just want a smaller basket for some herbs, or maybe you want to make both. That's always great as well. In terms of materials, you will need a little bit different depending on which one you are making. If you are making the larger ones, you are going to need to connect 3 different fence pickets together, because fence pickets usually measure just a bit more than 5 inches, but we want to cut off just a little bit of a seam over on the table saw so that we can glue these together. If you, however, are making the smaller one, you only need 2. So there is some benefits depending on how much wood you have. Now, one little tip and trick for you: if you end up making the larger one and you have these 3 fence pickets that are next to each other, you actually only need the middle one to be the long one, because that's the one that has the handle. So you can save on materials by cutting the other 2 a bit smaller. Like, they only need to be about 9 inches, and the last one I would probably leave it 13. You're gonna end up cutting it to 12 at the end. So just a way to save on material as well as you're going through. You will need to make 2 of each. We need 2 sides. So let's get started with that by trimming off some of these sides here, and then we'll do some glue ups. I'm using leftover scrap cedar pickets that I had left from a previous arch planter box project. By the way, you can check out that video right here via the link in the upper right corner. But because I'm using scrap wood, my length here is a little too short to fit 2 of each of the templates, because I'm making both the large and the small basket. But after some thinking, I found a creative solution by simply switching a few of the pieces around and cutting them to some interesting sizes. So I went ahead and I cut off the edges as I talked about over on the table saw, and then I just chopped these pieces to approximate size so that I can have enough wood to make to trace 2 templates. But before I trace them, I'm going to glue them up. So I have 2 of my longer ones, the 15 by 12, and I have 2 of the 12 by 9, and they're just the 2 boards, and these other ones are the 3 boards. And that's what I meant about saving on wood. You just need to leave the long one, the middle one long, in order to connect this. So save on some wood whenever you can, and every dollar saved is a dollar gained, right? Just went to go and have lunch. I let this sit in the clamps while I had lunch, so it's been half an hour. So hopefully it's nice and dry. I'm not running this through the plane or anything like that, because that could be too soon to do that in terms of the glue up. So let it rest. Ideally, it should be resting for 24 hours. But I'm not going to wait that long, especially because we're just cutting out the template, so it won't be too bad. So with these out of the clamps, we can start to trace up our little shapes here. And if you want to save time, you can use double-sided tape and connect 2 to each other and then cut them out at the same time. That's definitely going to save a lot of time, which is always great. For the double-sided tape, I like to use X-Fasten tape. It's inexpensive and it works really well. I'll leave a link below if you're interested. I cut the shapes using my bandsaw, but you can absolutely just use a jigsaw or even a scroll saw. Whatever you have in your shop, use that. While the pieces were still taped together, I used a drill with a Forstner bit to cut a 3/4 inch hole. This will later be used to feed through a dowel. I also cut some 1.5 inch strips of cedar. These will be for the crossbars for the basket. Now the length of these is really up to you. The longer the bars, the longer the basket will end up being. But I decided to base the length off of the ends. So for the larger basket, I cut them to 15 inches in length. And for the smaller one, I cut those to 12 inches in length. This project really doesn't require a lot of sanding, but I did run everything through with an 80 grit sandpaper just to smooth out the bandsaw marks. And then I curved the edges slightly by using my handheld router. But note, I only did this for the sides that are going to be facing outwards. So putting this basket together, I find that the trickiest part is actually just manuring this chicken wire here, because it's kind of sharp, the sharp edges, and you kind of just have to cut a piece that's a little bit oversized to begin with in order to be sure that you have enough. So what I like to do is, I've already taken my stick here. This is the long one that's going to go between the pieces like this. So I take this one and I make that the full length of this. So I make sure that it covers on both sides, because we're still going to need this to line the edges. But then after that, what I do is, see if I can show this without this falling on me. I bend over the one side here, push it down, just so that these little sharp things that I've cut off doesn't get into people's hands. That wouldn't be good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to staple it to this. And as you can see, I've kind of cut out these notches here on the side because we need this side right here to lay up against this corner right here. So I don't want any of this wire to interfere with that. So that's why it has this little nudge cut out here on each side. So I will go ahead and staple this in now, like this. And that way, when it is sitting in the basket, it's going to be like this, but it's not going to poke anyone's hands. When I get to the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push it back down, and then I'll also staple that one. But I'm not going to do this one yet because I need to see exactly how much I need. So essentially, this will go on first. Then I'm going to take this piece, place it up against here, measure by rolling it around, taking my point, and then I'll cut it a little bit oversized because I'm going to bend it down, and I'll do the same thing on this side. And while I attempt to wrangle this chicken wire here, I want to take a quick minute to say thank you so much for watching this video. And I would love it if you could leave a comment below and let me know where you're coming from. Are you a woodworker, a hobbyist, a DIYer, or are you just someone who really loves watching how-to videos? Recently, I did a deep dive into my YouTube analytics, and it turns out that 85% of people who watch my videos are not subscribed. And if you happen to be one of these people, then I would absolutely love it if you would consider subscribing. It's a huge help to content creators such as myself to boost my channel, and you will earn my eternal gratitude. Thank you for considering. It is time to assemble our garden basket, and in order to assemble that, we need to connect the two outside pieces, and I went ahead and I decorated the outside with a little bit of a laser graphic just to, make it a little bit of extra fancy. So if you have that ability, it's always a great idea to personalize it or just add something extra that will make your product stand out when you do go to sell it. One thing to keep in mind is when you are assembling them, make sure that your graphics are obviously on the outside, or if you're not doing that, your routed side needs to be on the outside. So just keep that in mind as we assemble them. The idea here is that this little netting, we've already attached it to the one side, is going to sit between these two pieces, and it's going to wrap all the way around. So because we already did the one side, we are going to use that one to begin with. So I'm just going to lay this down here, and it can be a little bit tricky here to get it started because we're going to use a brad nailer. If you don't have one, you can also just use a regular nail. You can even screw it. Just make sure you do a pilot hole first so that your holes don't split or your wood doesn't split. But essentially what we want to do is we want to have the outside, and we want to line it up on the net here. And then the other side that we've already connected, we're going to lay it like this, and then we're going to brad nail it in. But in addition to that, I am going to add a little bit of glue just to hold it long term. And this is outdoor glue because this might be left outside. So safety first. I'm going to put on my safety glasses because we will be using the brad nail in just a second. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue. Then try to line it up the best that I can, just so that I have a little bit of play. And then I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to attempt to get a brad nail in here, making sure my fingers are out of the way. Okay, so that's enough to hold it in place. And the longer the brad nails, the better. You obviously want to make sure that they're more than the width of whatever wood you are using. So that's the first one. And we're going to do that to the other opposite side as well. Again, making sure that this is on the outside. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to line it up. Oh, and I see I have a little bit of problem here. I didn't catch that before, but I actually went a little bit too far out. And this is where I was saying you need to have enough distance to not have this little netting in the way, which I now do. I was not being careful enough. It's actually better to have a little bit more on the inside than on the outside, because otherwise you'll have these gaps. We want to avoid that. So I'm just going to pull that one out. Okay. All right, let's try that again. That's better. That's a nice tight fit. Bye-bye. Remove the excess glue spill out. So now we have the one side done, but we're obviously not done. And we did leave it estimated the length that we need it, but you need to double check that now. So what you're going to do is you're just going to lay it on a flat surface again. And then you're going to take it all the way around just to make sure that this is accurate. And it's okay if it's if there's too much, you can always cut it off, but it's obviously not a good thing if you have too little, then you would have to take it off and start again. So that wouldn't be a good thing. So hopefully you did it properly. But what I like to do is before I add this one, I am going to add the netting with a couple of staples. That's the word, staples. We're going to wrap it around. And we're going to make sure that this is sitting right on the outside. I don't want it to go over. I want it to stay right here in the middle. And as I am holding it, I'm making it tight. And I'm just adding a couple of staples here just to guide it along. And I like to just leave a little bit of clay at the top here. Okay. So now that we have those in place, I can add my other board here. And this one, I'm just going to add in like before with this underneath here. And again, this is your last chance to double check that this is the right size. If you need to make adjustments, do that now. And same thing here. I can see I need to cut off one more or it is going to get in my way, which I really don't want it to. So I'll cut that one off too. Tuck that in. And then again, I'm going to add some glue. And then now, the only thing we have to do is just stretch it all the way in, this netting here. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then just use the stapler again to secure these ones. And I like to just use my hammer to hammer them down because sometimes the staples don't go all the way in. Okay, so if you can see the netting, sometimes it just needs to be bent a little bit more, so you can kind of play around with that, just manually bend it. And then you can add a few more staples to the side here now that it's fully in place. There we go. now we're just missing one thing, and that's of course the handle. We need to add a dowel in between these two, and I made my hole 3/4 of an inch. So I need a dowel that is 3/4 of an inch. Today we're keeping it simple. I picked this up. This was like $9 at my local hardware store, and this will do more than enough. And it's already the right size, or at least it's supposed to be. So I am going to feed this through and take a measurement, and then I'm just going to be using a little coping saw, a little handheld saw like this one, just to cut it off. That will take like 2 seconds to do. And then add a little bit of glue, and done. Once the dowels were cut to size, I added some CA glue and activator to the inside of the basket. The fit was honestly so tight that I doubt any glue was needed for the dowels. And with that done, the large and small basket was ready to collect flowers. It's currently tulip season where I am, so of course my wildflower fields were in full bloom, ready for endless picking. These baskets turned out great. And bonus, I got to use scrap leftover wood, which I already had, and with just a few simple tools, you can make these baskets too. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss my next video, and you'll also earn my eternal gratitude. And you can also join me over on my Patreon page if you want to continue to watch behind the scenes content and have some nice conversations with fellow woodworkers and DIYers. Comment below, how would you personalize this basket? Or better yet, who would you build one for? I am personally planning on gifting one of these to my mother-in-law, who happens to be a huge gardener, and the other one I'll keep for myself. I'll see you soon in the next Wood Story.